and rather menacing looking thunderclouds have passed us by without dropping any rain at all. Road America, one of the classic American natural terrain road courses laid down in the 1950s and changed, well, not at all since then. 14 corners, just over 4 miles. Overtaking opportunities at turn 1 if you're brave, turn 5 if you're good on the brakes because it's downhill, maybe into turn 8 at the bottom of the Hurry Downs, and then if you get a good draft out of the carousel through the kink and down to Canada Corner, there's an opportunity to dive down the inside there, although the braking on the inside is quite bumpy. Great to know that there are plenty of you at the circuit, tuned in on 87.7 FM and around the world on RS2 IMSA Radio. It is the IMSA Radio team rounding up what has been a super Saturday of practice, qualifying, racing, and this 2-hour contest will round things off nicely. Shea Adam will be our VP Racing Fuels pit and paddock correspondent. All of the teams working under the COVID precautionary measures, so their PRs and media delegates are not at the track, so all being done remotely, and thank you to all of them in advance for all of the information that you've been providing and will continue to do so throughout the race. Jeremy Shaw joins me, John Hindhaugh, in the Haggerty Global Broadcast Centre, and that has a new meaning in the current situation as social distancing has been taken to the extremes, with our the three of us being separated by a little bit more than 6 feet and 6 inches or 2 metres. That it has been the normal recently. Jeremy Shaw, we're in behind the Corvette C8R safety car. Everybody weaving around. Decent qualifying session. 30 plus cars here for this Michelin Pilot Challenge. Got to be happy about that, and a very, very deep and competitive field.
Yeah, this is going to be a lot of fun. It really is super competitive out there, and hats off to Nate Stacey. What a great job he did in qualifying. He's still only 20 years of age. Is Nate from Owasso in Oklahoma? Not exactly a hotbed of racing, is it, down there? But he's got just such an enthusiast. He started racing, if you could believe it, at the age of 12 in a spec Miata. And he's just gradually increased the size of the car he's raced since then, and this is his first pole position, and a very, very well-deserved one. It was. He's had 4 wins already, to his credit, but this is his first pole position, and he'll be looking to build upon that in this 2-hour race.
And sure, there's plenty of good stories down in the TC, the touring car category, which is all for TCR racing now.
One in particular, it's been a rough start to the season for the LA Honda World crew. Their best finish between all 3 cars of 8th coming at the Daytona round of the championship. In the last 10 days between Sebring and Road America, the guys at the shop completely replaced the chassis of car number 37. That's one that Chris Miller and Shelby Blackstock share. They did new engines in both the 73 and the 77 since the 37 got a new one back before Sebring. But it was a complete chassis swap because there was damage from Sebring. The crew has done a tremendous amount of work to all 3 of their cars, trying to get them ready, but also to the other 3 cars, the minis that they are running next weekend at Sonoma. Luis has told his guys that given the schedule the way it is now, they're probably not going to get a day off until the checkered flag flies in November at Sebring.
Yeah, and I would think there'll be a few other teams that are in the same situation. Luis Pericarpi, Jeremy informs me, is at the racetrack for the first time this year. And let's hope that is a portent of some good luck. Good to see the Alfa back again, the little Alfa Giulietta in that beautiful metallic volcano black, I think it's called in Alfa speak. It is, it's almost like a cooler coloured black. It's black but with a reddy undercurrent to it. It looks absolutely fantastic, and it's exactly the same as the Quadrifoglio edition that I took on a European road trip a few years ago, and completely bonded with the little hatchback. Good to see it racing here. 2 hours on the clock. This is the Road America 120 for the Michelin Pilot Challenge. The green flag is in the air, and the Aston Martin of Core Motorsports and Nate Stacey leads them away. Good start from the pole sitter. The Carbon Audi on the outside of the front row, already relegated to third position as Sheena Monk comes through in the Motorsport in action. That is the McLaren 570S. Sheena Monk gets an absolutely quality start and underlines the qualifying performance that we saw from her earlier in the weekend. Side by side, Turner Motorsport, Robbie Foley and Scott Maxwell in the Multimatic Ford Mustang through turn 3. The yellow and blue car and the dark grey car are still side by side under the Sargento Bridge. They're battling for 5th and 6th position. Foley has the inside line down into turn number 5, one of the action areas, and pushes the button, tries to press the advantage. Mistake by that, I think it's Russell Ward, who just went a little deep into turn 5, but he's held onto it. 2 wide up ahead, 3 wide behind, and here comes Brynjolfsson in the number 7 as well. Alan Brynjolfsson for Archangel Motorsport in the Porsche, the bright highlight, the yellow car. He's been going great guns this weekend. It's definitely Sheena Monk who is in second place at the moment. The timing screen is not lying. Fantastic start by Sheena, who is really making the most of her comeback in this McLaren. Fabulous opening to the race for Nate Stacey as well. Just 0.2 of a second his gap through the last of the timing loops. It's opened up a little bit now. Monk in second in the green and white McLaren 570, goes all the way to the edge of the curbing and the extra concrete at the kink down there as the field streams through, effectively like a road circuit down here, like a street circuit, my apologies, because there's nowhere to go if you get it wrong. Here comes the challenge from Macquarie, looks to the right hand side. Sheena gave him racing room there, that was very kind, but Tyler couldn't convert, coming to the end of the first racing lap. And what a cracker it has been, with Scott Maxwell up into 6th position. He's got ahead of James Clay in the Bimmerworld car. Hardly time to take a breath, Jeremy Shaw. Great start by Nate Stacey, and a fabulous start for second place McLaren driver Sheena Monk.
Absolutely remarkable for Sheena. I mean, this is absolutely incredible. She qualified 13th at Sebring. She's pretty much brand new to racing. She's only been racing a couple of years. She started off in the Lamborghini Super Trofeo a couple of years ago and really did seem to be out of her depth there, but that was because she'd done absolutely nothing before. But the strides she's made over the last 18 months or so, particularly working alongside Corey Lewis, who's served as a mentor and driver coach as well, it's been nothing short of remarkable. That was a really heads-up piece of driving by Sheena on that first lap. She was respectful, didn't do anything silly. Her job in this race is to bring this car and hand it over to Corey Lewis in a good, strong, clean position.
Problem for the number 21. That's the Brian Herder Autosport with Curb Agajanian at Hyundai Veloster, and that car has got damage. It was smoking. I think it's had a little tap in the early running, and that's Harry Gottsacker in that Veloster. Just saw a puff of smoke from that car. He got hit by the 98, hit by another one of the Velosters. That's Mason Filippi in the blue car, and a huge amount of tyre smoke. Now, that might have just been from the front tyres being spun up there. I'm fairly certain that I thought that was bodywork being pushed onto the car, but I think that was just a fantastic save, Jeremy Shaw. And what do you do in a front-wheel drive when you get sideways? You mash the throttle and steer the car the way you want to go.
And the ironic thing about that incident, John, is those two, Mason Filippi and Harry Gottsacker, they shared the winning car here last year. They've been split up this season. Perhaps it wasn't such a smart move. But the good news is they both got away from it and can carry on.
All good fun in the early laps. Take a little bit of a breath as through they go in TCR. It is the number 29 that leads, Spencer Brockman, and that is another one of the Velosters. Then behind them, the 37 in second place in TCR. It is Chris Miller for LA Honda World in the car that he shares with Shelby Blackstock. Then it is the number 33 of Ryan Norman, another one of those really rapid Hyundai Velosters, and off for the 93. Oh, this is awful news. Awful news for Carbon Motorsports. And this is the second of their cars. Well, it's going again, but the steam coming out of the front of that car. And that is disastrous. There is damage to the front of that normally pristine Audi as it drops down the timing and scoring. And that number 90, well, it'll have to pit straight away. There was clearly some argy and, if you will, bargy on that car. And I don't think that car will be able to carry on without some remedial action. I have to say, Jeremy, I didn't see whether that car was pushed or went off. It's the carbon Audi R8 we're talking about here, the Mark Siegel car.
Yeah, Mark was probably embroiled in the battle there amongst the TCR cars. I didn't see it, obviously, but I fancy that might have been the case. And 2-1 sometimes doesn't tend to go, does it? And unfortunately, it's Mark Siegel that comes off worse in that Audi. The good news is for the team, Tyler McQuarrie in number 39 car, the championship leader, is even though he lost a position at the start, he's running very strongly in that third position.
Yes, there was just a moment, I have to be honest, Jeremy, where I looked up at that and saw the carbon colours and thought, oh, is that the championship leader? But it wasn't. And now we see the problem for the battle for second. Sheena Monk with a whole train of cars behind, including that championship leading carbon car, with Tyler McQuarrie, who's got Russell Ward and Robbie Foley and Scott Maxwell and James Clear all in close attendance to the 7th position. Meanwhile, in TCR, the leading 29 Hyundai Veloster right up the tailpipes of Brett Mosing for the Murillo Racing AMG GT4 Mercedes in that sort of chrome ginger colour. And in fact, the Hyundai is quicker through the twisty bits, and right in there in third position is the Fast MD Audi, the number 23 car, which is sitting right in there and holding on to the Velosters. Now that's good news for the Audi of Max Faulkner. And now, surely, can we get a pass and spring these three? Not sure. Meantime, battle for second goes down to the first corner. And Russell Ward in the Winward Racing car, the rather menacing looking flat black with the dark red hindquarters, as McQuarrie goes side by side with Sheena Monk down through turn number 3, gets the inside. But now if Sheena can just tough it out there and get a little bit of a drafting partner from Russell Ward, she'll be on the inside when she gets to turn number 5. She's not giving up second place, and why should she? This is a battle for position, and the McLaren drags back ahead of the Audi. Sheena Monk takes the middle of the road, she doesn't need to defend there. But that was really forceful driving by Sheena. She wasn't fazed at all by McQuarrie coming down the inside at turn 3, Jeremy. Gave him racing room, very fair driving by both. That was very interesting to see the relative performance of those two cars.
It was, wasn't it? The McLaren just walked away on the straightaway there, ahead of the Audi, so she's able to maintain that advantage. But she's driving really, really well, I have to say. For somebody who has such little experience, just her third start at this level in the Michelin Pilot Challenge, and she is doing a remarkable effort there in that second position. For a while, a couple of years ago, she was coached by Catherine Legg when she first started off doing the Lamborghinis, but I believe it's Corey Lewis who's taken on that mantle now, and of course they are sharing the car this weekend, and it's a good opportunity to say get well soon to Catherine, who had a nasty crash at Paul Ricard in an ELMS, in testing for an ELMS race a few weeks ago.
Yeah, Kat bemoaning the fact on social media that the next couple of races she should have been in was here at Road America and then at Spa, two of her favourite circuits. Kat, I know you'll be tuned in. Best of luck, and hopefully the recovery is going well, and we'll see you at a track soon enough, I'm sure. So that TCR battle then, and in fact Ryan Norman has taken over the lead in the number 33. That's another one of the Brian Herter cars in the schmozzle that was going on behind Brett Mosing. Brockman now down into second. Faulkner still there in third. And Chris Miller trying to bridge the gap in the Honda Civic TCR to get onto the back of the leading 3. We haven't seen the leader of the race for a while. That's because Nate Stacey, has cleared off to the tune of 6.5 seconds. Now that, Jeremy Shaw, is a nerve-wracking gap at this stage. Sheena Monk now has got a little bit of a gap, round about half to 3/4 of a second, because the battle is on for third. Here comes Russell Ward down the inside at turn 3 on Macquarie. That's mid-engined Audi 5.2. V10 normally aspirated against the 4-litre twin-turbo front-engined V8 of the AMG GT4. Smashing battle between these two cars.
Yeah, tremendous racing all the way through the field there is at the moment, apart from the leader, Nate Stacey, as you say, has checked out. He set the fastest lap in the race so far, 1 minute 18.7. He's that's the only car to get underneath 2 minutes 19, as we see this shuffling positions here with Russell Ward and Robbie Foley going at it.
Yeah, and pushed off. There was contact there, and Russell Ward then out of 4th position as he was battling with Robbie Foley. He was just ahead of Robbie Foley. Great recovery by Russell Ward as he gets back onto the circuit. That was a very, very quick part of the... Well, there's so many places that are very quick. Just a quick update as well on the 99 Aston Martin. That was the car that was involved with the other Carbon car, and that's been into the pit lane and rejoined as well. And Shea Adam has a VP Racing Fuels update from the pit lane on the 98 Hyundai.
The contact between the teammates that we saw earlier between Mason Felipe and Harry Gottsacker, not entirely innocent. Mason Felipe has a braking issue that the team is monitoring. So that is the 98 Hyundai. That's the light blue one.
Thank you, Shea Adam, all over that. Well, we were just talking about people giving each other racing room there. Jeremy and Scott Maxwell had a great view of what was going on and says, thanks very much, I'll take the position there, leaning on each other in the early part, and it's damaged both cars. The 96 Turner car's got a rear puncture on the left and steering damage on the front left. I mean, there's an hour and 50 minutes near enough still to go. Do you go at it that hard that early?
No. You don't, and that was really unnecessary, I think, there from Russell Ward. He knew that the Turner Motorsport car was alongside him on the outside. It's all very well just driving, making sure he keeps on the grass, and there's Robbie having another moment down at the kink. But for me, that was Russell Ward being unnecessarily harsh there, and that's a lucky escape for Robbie Foley. But
yeah, it looks like he had a rear left puncture, and then that threw him into the wall, and that's what's done the steering damage. He will limp it back to the pits. Not been Robbie's day today. Got thrown into a very nasty accident with a brake failure on the GT Daytona car. Got back from that, and it's been a lot of hard work for the Turner BMW team as well. So the TCR.
The other BMW
so go ahead,
was off
Joe.
the road down there.
Yes, the Optima car, the Bimmer World car, involved in a bit of a shunt with the 22 Scott Maxwell. So that's James Clay and Scott Maxwell, and that again is at the action area that we pointed out earlier. That's turn 5. So everybody has forgotten how to race in the last couple of weeks. They're all starting to lean each other. This is not the Saturday night A main on dirt, fellas. Now come on, play nicely.
And I'll tell you what, I think the car that was off at the kink, I think that was the other Turner Motorsport BMW.
I think you're right.
Because Robbie Foley did come around. He lost a couple of positions, but was able to keep going again.
My fault.
And he's still in 6th place, so it was the other BMW.
Yes,
Vin Barletta. That's the car that Robbie Foley should be driving in the latter half of the race.
Yeah, my fault, Jeremy. It was because they'd been battling earlier on, the Russell Ward and Foley car, that I thought that they were... that was together. I think the original coming together was between Russell and Robbie Foley. Not sure how Vin Barletta got that puncture, or whether he just slid off under his own volition. That was me putting 2 and 2 together and making 5 there. My apologies for leading everybody up the garden path. It happens once in a while. Scott Maxwell has rejoined, but has dropped down to 16th position behind Frank Depew in the Rebel Rock Racing Chevrolet Camaro, and in front of the McCann Racing Audi, the number 8 car. And in fact, Scott already up to the Urban Grid livery car. It's another one of Andy Blackmore's liveries, I think. He's got a few in this race. Hello, Andy. I know you're tuned in. The livery guru and genius, and the man behind the IMSA spotter guides as well. So, Jeremy, that's been a hectic 15 minutes that's gone over like snow off a dike, hasn't it? My goodness me.
Yeah, that's shuffled things around an awful lot, hasn't it? Particularly that incident there with Scott Maxwell and James Clay. That was unfortunate. But this battle in TCR is just tremendous. This is not the lead battle in TCR, but there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 cars there, either nose to tail, side by side, or on top of each other, basically, pretty much going through turn 1 and down the hill towards turn 3.
It's the whole field apart from the first two who've got away just a little bit. Sheena Monk, by the way, has been passed by Tyler McQuarrie, but is hanging on to the back of the Carbahn Audi, just a couple of tenths between them, as this battle for third on down, with Max Faulkner in the Audi having a look at the... Oh no, is that a little bit further back? Oh my goodness, that is not the way to take turn 5 in that TCR. But I think we got away with it there. That's at turn 5. I think that was the 37 car that was under pressure a little bit further down the field. Yes, it was. And just goes straight on. And my goodness me. So Chris Miller, who had Gavin Ernstone right with him there in the dark coloured Audi RS3 on his right-hand side. Now, I don't think he's hit the tyre wall, but it appears that that car is not firing back up again. Meantime, the leading pair in TCR at Canada Corner, it's the red Hyundai from the white and green Hyundai, or if you prefer, and I suppose you might want to know what numbers they are, that's the 33 of Ryan Norman. John Brockman in the 29, Spencer Brockman in the 29 car that he shares with Parker Chase, who's back with us again this weekend. And everywhere we look, there are battles, as Russell Ward, I heard, right, we've had it, it's an official race now. We've had a giggle from Shea and from Jeremy Shaw. It's official. We're enjoying ourselves far too much at the end of Super Saturday here. Russell Ward on a comeback drive in that Winward HTP Mercedes, just going up to, I think that was 11th position ahead of the number 35 Riley. Yes, it was the Riley entered Mercedes, the wins car of Dylan Murray, and it would be Jim Cox that started that car, was it? Yes, it was. So that was a battle among equals in terms of the machinery. So this is a comeback drive then from Russell Ward, just on the outside of the top 10. Nick Gallant in the Bimmerworld BMW about 2 seconds further up the road. Behind them, James Pesek in PF Racing's Mustang. That is the traditional number 40 for PF Racing. And Shea Adam, the PF team, a model of sartorial elegance this weekend.
We got a warning at the last race when we talked to Chad McCumbee during the red flag period at Sebring that there were new fire suits on the way, and indeed the new fire suits have arrived. They look a bit like highlighter pink with some gray accents to them. So please, for the sake of everyone's retinas in the paddock, do not go stand next to the Archangel drivers, because if we get the highlighter yellow next to the highlighter pink, I think some people would go blind. Yeah,
it's a fair point. That is a fair point. An hour and 41 minutes still to go, side by side, out of Canada Corner. BMW, Audi, and just sitting in behind is the other Winward car, the silver machine. That's the 57 of Bruce Ward. So that's Rob Ferriol for Team Hardpoint and James Clay going at it out of the final corner. And Bryce, who is the father of Russell Ward, who we were talking about further up the field, he's got a double draft going up the start-finish line. Team Hardpoint with 2 Audis, 1 GT3, which has already been out qualifying this afternoon and will race tomorrow. And this, the GT4 version. And Bryce Ward in the Winward car, just sitting in behind there, getting a great view. He'll have the biggest smile on his face. Bryce at the moment loves competing, and he's certainly competing there in that 3-car battle, which is for 7th, 8th and 9th position, heading down towards turn 5 now, Jeremy.
Yeah, that's right. And that just looking at the TCR, the 2 the two Brown Herder Autosport Hyundais, they've checked out. They're pulling away now from Max Faulkner, a better part of a second a lap. That's pretty remarkable. I don't know why we didn't see that form in qualifying, but now in the race trim, they are just disappearing down the road. The Hyundais have actually been slowed down a little bit compared to a couple of weeks ago. They've got a slight performance change on the engine map on those cars, bring them down a couple of percent. But clearly in this race today, they are checking out Ryan Norman ahead of Spencer Brockman. Max Faulkner, the pole sitter, now is better part of 7 seconds behind them in third place.
Sheena Monk still in third position, hanging on to that, and she's got herself a little bit of a breathing space between her and Robbie Foley in the BMW M4 GT4, about 5 seconds. I just wonder if Tyler McQuarrie is going to try and chase down Nate Stacey in that very distinctive light blue, bright pink and white Aston Martin. Actually, the curvy nature of the livery really suits the new Aston Martin V8 Vantage. I saw a car earlier today that was racing at the Nürburgring that had a pretty much a matte black stripe right across the front, across the headlights, and only the outside parts of the headlights were visible, and then the matte black stripe went right across the front, and it really looked like a Camaro, an older Camaro. It was a bizarre piece of paint on that car, and just goes to show what a good piece of livery design can do for a vehicle. Well, there's no missing that Core Motorsports car out front at the moment, and out front Jeremy Shaw in elegant isolation at the moment with the 5.5 seconds, and probably very happy that he's that far ahead, as Russell Ward has now caught Nick Gallant and is having a little go on the number 80. It's the Optima Batteries car, and where's he gone?
He's got ahead of him.
He did get ahead of him there? Yeah, sorry, took my eye off the screen for a moment.
Yeah, I think he might have done that. Just look at the leader,
Yes,
Nate Stacey, running consistent lap times at the front of the field. Tyler McQuarrie in second place. He's just turned his fastest lap of the race. He's got that gap down now to about a bit over 5.5 seconds. A little bit quicker on the last lap, but certainly the two leaders now seem to be pretty closely matched. And Tyler McQuarrie up into second place, Monk, by 4 or 5 tenths of a second at least. Lap.
And in terms, Jeremy, of the strategy and the tactics here, these 2-hour races, not a long endurance race, but elements of endurance here, and particularly with things like, if we go full green, certainly, when you time your pit stops. And in fact, we've got a car in the pits already. That is the number 98 Hyundai. That was the one that got the clip earlier on, so that might not be a standard stop there for the eggshell blue car. In normal circumstances, what would we expect to see from the GS cars and the TCR cars in terms of pit run?
They can do. Good question. They can do. I think they're going to have to make 2 stops. It's touch and go as to whether they can do a 1 stop or whether they have to do a splash at the end. So we'll have to kind of see how that plays out as the race progresses. But we're running under green. They're going to struggle, I think, to get to the end on just 1 pit stop. The TCRs, I think, probably should be okay. GS, not quite so sure.
Shea Adam watched the number 98 Hyundai Veloster N into the pit lane and has this VP Fuel Racing Fuels pit lane update. What do you know?
Confirmation from the team that the reason Mason Filippi had to come into the pit lane was that brake issue. It continued to get worse, so the team is going to take a moment and evaluate it before putting new tires onto the car, giving him a little bit more fuel and sending him out to complete his stint. 40-minute minimum drive time. Right now, we're only at 23 minutes complete. Less than that for Mason because the drive time stops when you enter the pit lane, so he still has a bit of work to do.
Yeah, you can't take liberties with a potential brake issue, so no choice but for the team to bring that car into the pit lane for a look-see. 2:19.8 last time around for the leader, just underlining what Jeremy was saying about the accuracy and the consistency of Nate Stacey in the leading car. 2:19.4 for Tyler McQuarrie. So you're just under half a second taken back there, but it's still 5.5 seconds the gap. 2:19.8 from Sheena Monk, 2:20.2 for Robbie Foley. Jeff Mosing is just in 5th position, put that Murillo Racing Mercedes AMG GT for the best lap for the 56 car with a 2:20.4. Rob Ferriol, a couple of places further back in 8th, 2:20.7. That's that car's fastest lap of the race as well. And Bryce Ward is ahead of his son. So Russell has been up and down like the Assyrian Empire, and Bryce has gone ahead of the young man. So that's going to be an interesting chat at the dinner table later on this evening, somewhere around Elkhart Lake, if it stays the way it is at the moment. In TCR, it is still the 33 Brian Herter Autosport Hyundai Veloster N. This is the Veloster that was developed by Brian Herter Autosport using the i30N platform that's been used in TCR racing around the world, but the i30N isn't available in the States, whilst the Veloster is, ahead of the Spencer Brockman car in 2nd place, the 29, and then it's about 9 seconds back to Max Faulkner, who's having a pretty lonely race in 3rd position at the moment.
Yeah, he is, and he's been dropped by the other two by a second a lap at the moment. The two Hyundais pulling away at the front in TCR, so they are looking very, very strong indeed. You talked about the Ward father and son. Russell, of course, fell behind his dad because of that off when he got together with Robbie Foley earlier on, so he's kind of now making up ground. He's got past a couple of cars. He's passed both Jim Cox and Nick Galante in the number 80 car. So next on his list for Russell will be his dad. As you're right, and he's closing that gap. He closed it by about a second last time around. It should be with him with another lap. So that'll be the battle for 9th and 10th places.
Well, on the day when IndyCar announced that its Mid-Ohio race was postponed to a date to be confirmed in either October or November, we've got some news about changes for the IMSA calendar as well. Watkins Glen in upstate New York, that will move to the 5th and 6th. That event will move to the 5th and 6th at Michelin Raceway Road, Atlanta, whilst the Lime Rock GT race will be sharing on a NASCAR weekend, I think, at the Charlotte Roval on the 9th and 10th of October. That's going to be a very busy weekend. ELMS in Monza that weekend from memory, and that means 2 races in 2 weekends at Road Atlanta. Is that right? I think it might be. 2 races at in that area, so the Roval and then straight down to Road Atlanta, so in the same part of the country. That news just coming to us courtesy of IMSA. So Watkins Glen event has now been moved to Michelin Raceway Road Atlanta, 5th and 6th of September. Lime Rock, the GT Festival race, going to the 9th and 10th of October, and moving venue to the Charlotte Roval on that date, 9th and 10th of October. Changing circumstances, series having to adapt, and we wish all of the competitors well and the IMSA logistics team well in sorting that out. Here comes Bryce Ward having a look to the right hand side, trying to make up another place, and he's got up to 8th position as he crossed the line, as he's just gone past Team Hardpoint and Rob Ferriol. This is a really good drive from Bryce Ward at the moment, and following him through is Russell. Yes, it is. So that's father leading son, and Bryce has been working on his consistency in the last few months, keeping out of trouble, not a scratch on the silver car and no damage, and just working his way through the field, Jeremy. Exactly what he needs to be doing at this stage with almost half an hour gone. Yeah,
you're absolutely right. He is doing an absolutely excellent job, isn't he, in the number 57 car is Bryce. He has his confidence knocked a few times last year with a couple of fairly major incidents, but he's relatively new to this game. He's not a spring chicken, but he's super keen. He wants to learn all the time, and that's exactly what he's doing. And he's showing good racecraft. He's showing good speed, and that's very impressive.
Yeah, and he's in another battle with ahead of him the Bimmer World James Clear car. Let's go to Shea Adam for a VP Racing Fuel update from the pit. Shea?
Bad news for Hyundai fans. The number 98 Brian Herta Autosport Hyundai Veloster, that's second in the championship. Brake issues. They can't fix it on the pit lane. That car has gone back behind the wall.
Second in the championship. Yep, that is significant. Thank you, Shea. Still plenty of Brian Herta Autosport Hyundai Velosters in the race. Ryan Norman from Spencer Brockman by just 0.6 of a second. Those two seem to be tied together with a relatively short bungee cord at the moment. Max Faulkner still a little further back, around about 10 seconds. But he's got...
Yeah, he's falling back in a second a lap, John.
Yeah, and Harry Gottsacker is closing him down, actually. Not by much, but he's starting to close him down just a wee bit. And it may well be a 1-2-3 for the Hyundai Velosters. Then a 6.5 seconds back to the KMW Motorsports Alfa Romeo Giulietta. That's a good run again for that little black car, which looks absolutely fantastic. I really do like the livery on that with the dark red on that car. Oh, it's father versus son across the line. And Russell. Now, Russell, give your dad a bit of room on the outside. Respect your elders. Flashing the lights as he gets up into the area of the BMW. I have a strong suspicion that Bryce may have let him go there and actually cost himself a little bit of momentum, because Rob Ferriol and the team Hardpoint Audi has just closed in a little bit. And now Russell's got through and past the BMW at turn number 3. So that's moved Russell up into 7th position. He started the lap in 9th and already had a couple of overtakes. Bryce just eased out of it there a little bit, and he might have to fight with the red, white and black Audis. They come down to turn 5. Bryce down the inside, can leave his braking quite late. Actually does a really good job there. Just slides a little bit wide, and here comes Ferriol on the left hand side to turn number 6, and that will be a pass for position, I think, by the Hardpoint car. Bryce will lift out here into turn 7. He has done, and just brakes a little bit early. That was smart racecraft, as you said there, Jeremy. That was smart. He'll live to fight another day there. No point in going side by side through turn 7 and risking it all with 90 minutes still to run on the clock.
Absolutely, and he knows his son is a little bit quicker. Russell's a little bit quicker than Bryce, so no point holding him up, and he's just going to run his own sensible, smart race here for Bryce Ward. I mean, he's had some really, really good finishes. He's got a great co-driver in young Alec Udell. Great to see Alec back in this championship, still only 24 years of age. He's another guy like Nate Stacey, who started super young in his career, and he raced in Europe last year. Did Alec Udell won the European GT4 Championship, and it's great to see him have this opportunity to join the Winward Racing effort here for these last couple of races.
Yeah, it's been a very busy year or so for Winward, having taken over HTP in Europe and their facility in Germany. And they've had some success with their European arm as well, including a win both in the virtual and the real world series at the Nürburgring Nordschleife, what is now called the Nürburgring Langstrecken Serie, NLS. It used to be called VLN, and in fact is still administered by the VLN organisation. Christian Hohenadel doing a very good job in running that side of things, as well as jumping in a car once in a while over in Germany. Still, this battle continues for what is 8th position in GS, with James Clear, Rob Ferriol and Bryce Ward, 8th, 9th and 10th. And this is the beauty, isn't it, Jeremy, of the Michelin Pilot Challenge, that, there are battles all the way down the field. You'll find somebody to race in this field with, 21 GT4 cars in GS. There will be somebody that you'll have a race with for the better part of your stint normally.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And that's what I think one of the great strengths of this championship. Another one being the fact that there's so many pretty competitive cars out there. Right now, it looks like the Aston Martin has got the legs on the field. Although Tyler McQuarrie is actually just inch by inch, he's getting a bit closer in second place to the Aston Martin in that second place car barn with Peregrine Racing Audi car number 39. But they are now pulling away quite substantially from Sheena Monk, who is slipping back in toward the clutches of Robbie Foley in 4th place.
Jeremy Shaw is with me, John Hindhaugh in the Haggerty Global Broadcast Centre. Shea Adam is our VP Racing Fuel Pit and Paddock reporter. She'll keep us up to date with what's going on off the track or around the track. We've already lost the 98 Hyundai, second in the TCR Championship for Brian Herder Autosport, behind the wall with braking issues, and we're getting close to an important part of the race, Shea Adam, as far as tactics are concerned.
We are now under 5 minutes away from the minimum drive time having been met, and apparently a lot of drivers are putting down their phones and putting on their helmets. A lot of the pit wall starting to be populated by crews with tires and drivers ready for their shot at Road America.
Did notice that last time around the number 77 LA Honda World Racing came in with Taylor Hagler into the pits. That was a little bit early then for the full drive time. That's the car that's being shared with Ryan Eversley, and through comes across the start finish line now the 4-0 car. That is the bright James Pesek PF Racing pink Ford Mustang. Couldn't lose that one in the car park, could you? Wins GT4 going down the inside at turn 3. There is literally something happening every single corner on the circuit. That was James Cox going inside Scott Maxwell for 11th position on the Multimatic car. That Ford Mustang, Jeremy, that number 11 car, that has lost a bit of pace. It was battling a little further up the field. Meantime, Bryce Ward has got ahead of James Clear for the moment. Rod Ferriol's cleared off from that, what was a 3-car battle, to the tune of 2 seconds, and Bryce Ward has schemed his way past James Clear, but James, being James, has decided not to let that one lie. And meantime, the younger Ward has just gone up into 6th position, having dealt with Alan Brynjolfsson in the braking area at the bottom of Hurry Downs into turn 7. So literally, every time we look at a corner, something is happening. That is the beauty of the Michelin Pilot Challenge.
Brilliant, isn't it? And Russell Ward, this is a good comeback by Russell. He's had that off-course excursion earlier on, dropped quite a long way down the order, certainly outside the top dozen. He's now back up into 6th position, that will be, and turning amongst the fastest laps of the race. I think the only cars that are quicker than him right now are the 2 leaders, Nate Stacey at 19s, and the same can be, absolutely the same could be said for Tyler McQuarrie in that 2nd placed Audi.
I think he dropped as far as 14th, Jeremy, from memory, but I could be wrong, and I'm prepared to be corrected on that. Russell Ward, excuse me. But as I say, I'm prepared to be corrected on that. Down into Canada Corner, the battle at the front of TCR, which swapped over a wee while ago now, when the bright red number 33 for Ryan Norman managed to finagle its way past what is effectively the team car, sitting in behind it for Spencer Brockman. Those 2 cars then running in lockstep at about half to 3/4 of a second. Haven't really seen, Jeremy, any effort or evidence that those cars have been massively battling each other. Another pass for Russell Ward, who goes past the similar car of Mosing and the 56 Murillo Racing car. So Jeff Mosing loses 5th position. This is a very, very good drive indeed from Russell Ward. He's dragged Alan Brynjolfsson with him to the back bumper of the Chrome Ginger car. And our leader, well, 4.1 seconds. He has been closed down around about 1.5 seconds in the last, half a dozen or more laps, but still looking very comfortable indeed. Nate Stacey, Jeremy Shaw is at Canada Corner, and that Aston Martin is looking very nicely set up and hooked up indeed.
Well, it really is, John. I mean, his last 3 laps, they've all been within just about a tenth or 1.5 of a second, a 1.5 of a second. 1 minute 19.3, 1 minute 19.4, 1 19.4. So that's the sort of thing you want to see when you're out, when you're the co-driver waiting to hop aboard this car. That would be Kyle Marcelli. vastly experienced now Canadian. I don't mean to say that because it doesn't seem like long since a car was just starting out his career, but he's a fine young man as well, and he'd be really impressed with the job that Nate Stacey is doing as well. 2:19.9 that time, so a little bit slower than the previous few laps, but still maintaining that gap to a little bit less than 4 seconds over the second place car.
BMW number 82, James Clay, has Scott Maxwell in the 22 Ford Motorcraft GT4 Ford Mustang as they head up the hill right in the wheel tracks. That Mustang of the BMW, the throaty sound of the Mustang V8 pulls to the right hand side as Maxwell is looking to get into the top 10 at turn 1, balancing the car a bit on and off the throttle there. The Mustang didn't really want to turn, did it? When Scott asked for the power a little bit earlier and had to come out of the throttle again. Tries down the inside to turn 3, but that isn't working either. But he's got a lovely run out of turn 3. Now, right up underneath the rear wing of the BMW, almost too close for a moment. He dodges to the left and then back to the right. Does he show his hand early? He does. He goes to the left-hand side. He'll get the slight little left kink at what is termed turn 4, but then he'll be in prime position for the outbraking manoeuvre to the apex of turn 5, if he can do it, and he can't. The BMW, Jeremy, better on the brakes.
Yeah, indeed, and interesting to see the relative differences in the cars there. But Scott Maxwell, he's had to work his way back after being involved in an incident earlier on. He's now knocking on the door of that top 10 again. We've seen the first cars onto pit lane. The minimum drive time requirement has been met. We've seen number 35 car, that is Jim Cox. He will hand over that Mercedes to young Dylan Murray. Number 38 Porsche, Tom Collingwood, he will hand over that car to Jan Halen. And Frank Depew, number 71 Chevrolet Camaro, is a long way back in the 16th position. And it will be Robin Liddell, race winner last year, will climb aboard the number 71 Chevrolet.
Yeah, and in what style was that run? Here is that one taken. Here is the leader onto the pit lane. Shea, Adam, give us an update. We'll keep an eye on the leader. Give us an update on those early pit callers in this VP Racing Fuel pit update.
Yeah, I think Jeremy hit the nail on the head with all three of those. It'll be fuel and tires for them. But the only one I'm a little concerned about, the 35, that's the Mercedes that won the first race of the season way back in January at Daytona. That was very, very close to minimum drive time for Jim Cox. Okay, the 60 is in. Nate Stacey has done his job, and Kyle Marcelli is taking over. Immediately behind them, ironically, the next pit box behind them, is Kyle McQuarrie handing over to Jeff Westphal for the 39 Carbon Audi. All of the cars doing and tires. Stay though. Notably, Robbie Foley in the number 95 Kurt Motorsport BMW. So it's not yet time for Bill Power. Also coming into the pit lane, we had the number 3. Fantastic opening stint for Gina. She is handing over to Corey Lewis in the McLaren. In number 56, Murillo Racing Mercedes, Jeff Mosing is in. He'll be handing over to Eric Foss. Also into the pit lane, Alan Brynjolfsson for Archangel Motorsport. First podium for that team in more than a decade last time out. Try and do one better and get them another race win. The leader coming into the pit lane is the first one back out. That is Kyle Marcelli, closely followed by Jeff Westphal. Also into the pit lane, Seb Priu gets an opportunity to drive around Road America. He's been here before. He came and watched his dad race in 2016. Now it's his chance to go. Rob Ferriel also into the pit lane in the number 31 Audi. That will be handing over to our friend Spencer Kelly. And we have the Mercedes, number 57 of Bryce Worth, handing over to Alec Udell. James Clay, World of BMW, the number 82 in. He is handing over to Devin Jones. James Pesic is also in the pit lane. Chase Briscoe will be taking over the 40 Racing Right Pink Audi. See right now with Brandon. Looking nice. And also came in the number 8. That your PCR team takes the back of staying out. Our leader, Robbie Foley.
Well, just about got most of that. Thank you, Shea. Into the pits for that number 40. So Foley leading from Russell Ward now in second position after the fight back. The fight back continues. Out they come. His father, Bryce, has passed over the car And so the 57 back out on the circuit with the driver change having been completed. Alex Adele for Winward in there. Been a couple of enforced changes to the driver lineup. Here's the car that was leading, Robbie Foley, coming into the pit lane. And does that mean that Russell's gone through? Not quite yet. Waiting to see
He came in the pits as well.
He's followed him in. Thank you, Jeremy. As has Nick Gallant. So the top three is in. So we will, in a moment or two, well, about a minute's time, we might well get the Brian Herter Autosport Hyundais actually scored as leading the race overall here as they come through. There's a possibility. Go ahead, Shea.
That would be quite sweet. Flying Ryan Norman out on track. He led in each of his first 3 races in IMSA, but he and his co-driver did 2 hours of pit stop practice this weekend, doing driver change back and forth, he and Gabby Chavez, because they were so frustrated at losing at Sebring and a slow stop at Daytona. They wanted to make sure that is not the cause of them losing the lead of the race. So Ryan Norman would be very satisfied to not only lead the class, but lead overall. The Chernin Motorsport W pit stop is done, and Bill Oberlin is rolling once again, and Russell Wood has been his car evacuated from, and now it's dropped off the air jacks. Billy Johnson, series champion, about to drive a Mercedes for the first time in this series. He goes Billy.
Yeah, and what we were trailing has happened. Ryan Norman and Spencer Brockman have gone through to lead overall, still just half a second behind them. They also pit stop, of course, and they've got Kyle Marcelli and Jeff Westphal behind them. That 60 car has not stopped, I reckon, Jeremy. In fact, I don't think Jeff Westphal has either. In the no, that car must have stopped.
No, all the GS cars have made a pit stop now.
Okay, so Marcelli is the leader of GS on the road and has had the pit stop in that core number 60.
Correct.
Right, got you. Of course, it's the Vantage. I'm thinking, you know, I see core and still I think their previous manufacturer affiliation. My apologies for that. I was thinking, where's the Aston Martin dropped down to? But it hasn't dropped down anywhere. It's still got a 6-second lead. Good battling still going on in the TCR category with the battle area.
That's Harry Gottsager closed right up onto the tail now of the pole sitter Max Fortner, and he's come from nowhere, Gottsager. He's come from a long way back. He's closed up on Max Fortner. He's just driven past him on the straightaway. This is not close. The Hyundais have been pegged back a bit since the last round, but clearly they have a really good speed right now.
I think the TCR, we've said this before, but I'm going to say it again. I think TCR as the secondary class here, or the second class in Michelin Pilot Challenge, has been an absolutely unadulterated success. Passes made by the Hyundai, by the way. Gottsager has gone through in the black number 20, or mainly black, and red number 21. Absolutely fantastic. The TCR's factory built and supported racing cars at, relatively speaking in racing terms, a reasonable cost. And I am reminded, by the way, that in 2016 Stephen McAleer and Chad McCumbee won overall in an MX-5 in not a top class car. Remember when the race was red flagged? So it's not unheard of to have the second class leading the race, but of course they'll have to make their pit stops and give up that position. Kyle Marcelli closing them down round about 4 seconds, 3.5, 4 seconds a lap at the moment, so he'll be on them in a lap or so, and he's got now 6 seconds of an advantage of Jeff Westphal, who's taken over the car barn with Peregrine Audi. Gottsager now, as we reported, in third position overall across the line. Plenty of battles in the GS category, very close indeed between the Urban Grid number 71 Camaro and the 57 Alex Udell, driven Winward Racing. That is a battle for 15th and 14th. And I think that's Jan Halen just ahead of them, isn't it, in the Cayman? Yes, it is.
That's exactly right. And these three cars all pitted at the earliest opportunity. So they were the first cars onto pit lane. Everybody else in GS came in over the next couple of laps. So, the battle here is being continued. Robin Liddell's going to look down to the inside here. And that's a good, nice, clean pass from Robin Liddell. Although Bryce Ward, excuse me, not Bryce Ward, it's Alec Udell, isn't he, who says, no, thank you.
Yeah, Udell and Liddell together there is commentator's nightmare as well as they come out
Yes.
in turn 7.
We've got a new lap record, by the way. First of all, it was set by Corey Lewis. His first lap out of the pits, a 2 minutes 18.2, or 2 minutes 18.3, I should say. And then moments later, Dylan Murray came past and set a new lap record of 2:18.285, 2:95. So new lap records here. The pace is heating up.
It's all starting to get a bit serious now. With an hour and 9 minutes to go, and some of the pit stops taking place quite some time ago, Jeremy's thought that the GSs would need a second pit stop, absolutely underlined by that. 22 laps at the sharp end, 19 laps at the sharp end of the field for Nate Stacey. Looks to be about par for the course. Russell Ward, I think, did 1 lap more than that, even accounting for him coming through. Pit stop starting now with just on an hour and 8 minutes to go for the TCR cars, and one of the first in, the number 23 Max Faulkner, Fast MD Racing Audi RS3. So he was struggling a little bit after being right there with the 2 leading Hyundais for a while, Jeremy. Not sure if that was a car problem, and James Vance will take over that car.
Probably tyre wear, John.
Well, and haven't we seen this before, Jeremy, that if you go too hard too early on these front-wheel drive cars, you can really take performance out of your run.
You're absolutely right, and I think I would hazard to guess that's why the Brian Herder Hyundais did not qualify particularly well. They didn't want to take too much out of their Michelin tyres during the qualifying session. Just run the minimum of laps, get in a race, and then race hard from there. I think that's why they started a lot further back in the field than we anticipated.
It's going to be fascinating towards the end of this race. This is not done by any stretch of the imagination. Kyle Marcelli has worked his way past the 2 Brian Herter Autosport Hyundai Velocitas that were leading, still leading in TCR, of course. And they look to be going as close to half distance as they can, which makes perfect sense, of course, even to a small brain like me. Alex Udell. Sorry, Jeremy, go ahead.
Yes. Excuse me, the guy who's on the charge now, again, is Corey Lewis. He's just set a new fastest lap of the race, clipped a whole second off his previous lap, 2:17.294. He just come across the line again, 2:16.9. The old lap record was a 2:18.4, so more than a second and a half faster for Corey Lewis. He's got about 20 seconds to make up, less than that actually. And that's not going to be a problem at this rate.
16 and a half seconds to the leader, Jeremy. And he's got 2 TCR cars in between himself and the leader. But that is a cracking pace being set by that McLaren. And set up, let's not forget, by a stunning first stint by Sheena Monk, who was absolutely brilliant in the rough and tumble at the start of the race. Let's check in with Shea Adam for a VP Racing Fuel pit and paddock report.
Fan favorite car number 77 Honda from LA Honda World. They went behind the wall with wiring harness issue. Upon further review, they sent the car back out to see if it would be okay. It's a boost actuated wiring loop that must have gotten hit by debris. And thank you very much to Ryan Eversley, who said that they're packing it up for the day. They're not going to rest the car. So that fan favorite out of the race, and the really bad luck season for that crew it continues, unfortunately.
And Ryan Eversley not getting a run in that car today, as far as I can see, Shane. I think that's the second time that he's not actually got behind the wheel.
Correct. So last week out at Sebring, he was the race at Daytona. He was. It looks like this week that would be 12th.
No,
11th, possibly 10th.
Right. Okay. So Jeremy, with just over an hour to go, Marcelli in the lead by just a second and a half, and then 3.2 seconds back from Westphal to the TCRs. But the man on the charge at the moment, now less than 14 seconds from the lead, Corey Lewis in the motorsport in action, the Mia McLaren 570S GT4. Absolutely brilliant. As the leaders in TCR into the pits, or at least Ryan Norman has come in the red car. The second of the cars, the 29, has gone through for another lap. I wonder if they're just splitting the pits so they're not in the pit stall together.
That's number 21 car. That's Harry Gottsacker. Okay, yeah, he's just been swallowed up by the GS cars.
Correct.
Yeah. The Jeff Westphal had a really good lap on that last time around. He pulled up a lot of time on Carl Marcelli. Carl must have had some problems with the trap.
So full pit stop for that bright red Hyundai. Already the driver change done, tyres done, and the determining factor of how long that car is standing still should always be how long it takes for the fuel to go in, and that's exactly what has happened. Ryan Norman out of the number 33.
We're coming in right now.
So as you heard in the background there, Gabby Chavez installed, and they want to get that car out because the next car is coming along. Meantime, in the pit lane as well, Gavin Ernstone, who started the Audi RS3 LMS TCR, the number 61 car, he's already out. Fuel already going in as well. Good run for Gavin, he'll be happy with that.
Yeah, he's kept his nose clean, and you can see, I don't know whether you noticed there, the height differential between Gavin Ernstone and John Morley. John's a big lad, and he squeezes himself in that car, and boy, he is fast. This pairing scored their first win at the end of last season. Not had much luck this year, but there's still plenty of time in this season, and John Morley is fast.
Yeah, very fast indeed. In fact, they were robbed really of a really good result at VIR, Jeremy, in the very late stages of the race when they were tapped off in a battle, and they could have had another victory. Was that last year? Was that the year before now? But certainly it's been a good programme that they've put together. A little bit of smoke coming from the back of the Camaro, and oh, that doesn't look good. I thought that might have been bodywork rubbing. No, it's not. It's something a little more than that. And Robin Liddell's Rebel Rock Racing Chevrolet Camaro is slowing down, and after the highs of last year, that car is coming into the pits. Meantime, Shea Adam has this VP Racing pit report.
Shayna Monk, thank you so much for joining us. What a start to the race. Did you ever expect to come to Road America and be at second place when the green flag was waving?
No, that was what an incredible feeling. I mean, the Motorsports in Action guys have worked so hard all weekend. In one of the practices, I had a little bit of an issue, and they got the car back, repaired it for free practice too. And it's just been fantastic since then. So the JG Wentworth McLaren 570S has been fantastic.
What's been the biggest difference for you this weekend? Is it a different comfort level, or is things just seeming to click? Because your drive earlier, I mean, the way that you managed to hold off Tyler McQuarrie, that was so cool.
Yeah, it's fantastic, considering that he was champion last year. I mean, it's a privilege to race with the people that are in this field. I'm just very familiar with Road America, and the funny thing is, I felt like we had a car that was this good at Sebring, and unfortunately, we ran into a problem. So, right now it's just all the pieces coming together for us, and it was just a matter of time until that happens for the Motorsports in Action guys.
Sheena, it's Hindhoff here in the Haggerty Global Broadcast Centre. Cracking qualifying and an opening drive. Got to ask you, does driving in the Lamborghini Challenge, does that prepare you for this? Because that car probably had a lot more power and was probably a bit quicker in a straight line. In some ways, has it been a relatively easy transition to the McLaren?
Yeah, absolutely. Super Trofeo is always going to have a special place in my heart, and I hope to be back there again at some point. But yeah, I would say that car, obviously it's got the straight line speed, but I always, joke it's kind of a bear to drive, and I'd say that this car has been a lot more friendly, and just for me to come up to speed has been pretty quick.
Sheena, great job in that opening stint. Thank you very much for taking a few moments out to talk to us, and good luck the rest of the way.
All right, thanks so much, and I just want to say hi to my family and thank my sponsor, and let's hope Corey finishes on the podium.
Thank you, Sheena. Sheena Monk with that VP Racing Fuels update. Problem for the Cayman. And that car is going to have to come in. That was Jan Helen in the BGP Motorsports 38 car with a left rear issue. Go ahead, Jeremy.
Well, I was going to say, he'd been battling with Robin Liddell, hadn't he? If you remember.
Oh,
so
yes, good point.
Cars battling away there, so I wonder whether with two of those cars having problems on, well, a lap apart, I guess, is there smoke or fire?
Or both. Meantime, in comes the number 21. That's the black Hyundai, one of the Hyundai horde, if you will. And that is another standard stop inside the final hour now. So again, you don't have to be an arithmetic genius to realise that if you've done more than half of the race under green flag conditions, you should be able to go to the end from here, as through goes. Now that's Gabby Chavez now, isn't it, in the 33 car. So he goes back to the lead as Gottsaka is out of the black number 21. Again, this is all down to the fuel fill. So Mark Wilkins will take that car out and pulls away as if he's in the supermarket shopping area. Oh, a visibility problem for the number 77 LA Honda World car. And well, I thought that car was not coming back out again, that Shea mentioned earlier on. They haven't closed.
Obviously wasn't ready to come back out again.
Yes, haven't put the bonnet up, the hood on properly. And that is Taylor Hagler again behind the wheel of that car. It started to lose the bonnet halfway down the front straight at the left front corner, and then flips up and over. Has broken the windscreen, as they are wont to do when you lose a hood like that. That would have been a scary moment. Laminated screens, of course, have made that not so much of the issue as it would have been a few years ago. A toughened screen would have just completely shattered. And in some ways, slightly fortunate in that the left-hand fixing has broken, and so that's pushed up a little higher. So we'll probably still see underneath that. There is a wee bit of debris on the front straight just coming into the braking area for turn one. Keep an eye on that, because that looks like a strip of metal. Meantime, guess what? The battles continue. 82. Now Devon Jones behind the wheel of the Bimmer World M4, and Sebastian Priaulx, Multimatic Motorsport Ford Mustang in the 22 is battling away. And they are now coming through traffic. No, that's the Turner car. 95 down at turn number 8, and they're coming past the Alpha, which is still running around. All you Alphaholics will be loving the fact that the little Giulietta is still running quite nicely. Thank you very much indeed, and sitting in 6th position at the moment for KMW Motorsport. I tell you what, Jeremy, we talk about how good these Michelin Pilot races are. This has been a classic already. It has been non-stop action. Anybody who's driving in any class, in any of the cars, unless you've been out in the lead car at the front of the field at Core Racing Aston Martin, it really has been action, 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 hasn't it?
It certainly has. Yeah, that's exactly what we've come to expect. And this battle here that's raging on the number 95, number 7, number 4, number 56, all nose to tail there pretty much. There's the number 7, that Volt. Porsche came in just ahead now. That's Trent Hindman at the wheel of that car. It's Billy Johnson at the wheel of number 4 car. That's the Winward Racing entry. He's taken over from Russell Ward. And that's a super battle between Trent Hindman and Billy Johnson. They both have a huge amount of experience and success in this championship.
56th position that, Jeremy, and you've got to say kudos to Russell, who dropped down. I did just check, he did drop down to 14th for fighting his way back up again. But you've then got to think, what a missed opportunity. If that car's got that kind of pace in it, where could he have been had he not had those couple of off-track moments?
Well, of course, and he got together, did he not, with number 95 car, did he, early on, and here they are. They're sandwiching Trent Hindman in the number 7 Porsche, but they're still, that battle is ongoing between the number 95 and the number 4, and number 56 car of Jeff Mosley, Eric Foss, excuse me, having taken over from Jeff Mosley. He's hanging in as well. This is a really, really good battle for what is now 4th position. It's Bill Oberlin, of course, at the wheel of number 95. And he's going to have to cede that position there to Trent Hindman, which is a great pass at the top of the hill in turn 6.
Magic stuff. That bright yellow Volt Cayman. Archangel Motorsport now for that. And Billy Johnson hanging on. Eric Foss, Murillo. Riley Motorsport only another 8 seconds further back in 8th position. Hard points got Spencer Pumpelly behind the wheel of their Audi in 9th position. Expect to see that car come forward from there. There comes Billy Johnson again, right in the wheel tracks of that Turner BMW as they come down through the long run to Canada Corner. Just extraordinary stuff, really is. And through, the pass has been made by the AMG GT4, and that was coming into Canada Corner, did get the run, as we mentioned, and immediately puts, 2, 3, 4 cars lengths into the BMW, and Mosing now right up the tailpipes, the 56 car, Eric Foss, excuse me, right up the tailpipes of the Turner car. So Hindman, Johnson, Oberlin and Voss, but Hindman and Johnson had just cleared off a tiny little bit there.
Yeah, Billy Johnson, he is tied for the lead for most wins in the Michelin Pilot Challenge with Matt Plum on 23, and Billy Johnson, he's got the record for number top 3 podium finishes. 49 is his tally so far. And there is back to our race leader, Carl Marcelli. He's had a couple of laps where he must have had to deal with he had to deal with some traffic, which cost him a little bit of time, but now he's been able to stretch out that lead again. It came down to as little as a second and a half. But over the course of the last 5 laps, Carl Marcelli has eked that back out again now to almost 6 seconds of Jeff Westphal in 2nd place. Corey Lewis, having turned some stunning laps earlier on, he's similar margin back, actually a little bit more now back in 3rd place, and a big gap back to that battle we saw between Trent Hindman and Billy Johnson, Bill Oberlin and Eric Foss. But the McLaren, we could see, I think, during that first stint that Sheena Monk, we didn't really ask about it, but she was obviously struggling towards the latter part of that stint. Her tires, I think, beginning to go off on the McLaren. She fell back quite rapidly in the closing stages of her stint. Since Corey Lewis took over, he's absolutely flown, but now that gap is, we'll see whether it stabilizes or whether he was able to keep that charge going.
Well, inside 51 minutes, the time remaining at the moment You know what, Jeremy? You and I watch a lot of motor racing, and I like to think that you can learn a little bit about how a car is performing by how it looks on the track. That Aston almost always looks slow everywhere. It's not sliding around, it's not looking difficult to drive, and look at the times, the consistency that you mentioned earlier on in the first part of the race has been continued in the second part, and it just looks a really good platform. It must be a joy to drive.
Yeah, look, yeah, you're absolutely right. Right on that score. It's super consistent too. Where once he has clear track ahead of him, as with Nate Stacey in the opening stages of this race, Carl Maselli able to turn consistent laps around about 1:19 or thereabouts, and that's going to be more than enough to maintain that advantage over Jeff Westphal in the Audi in second place.
Still, this battle for position between Trent Hinman and Billy Johnson, and how many times have we mentioned those two names over the last few years of Michelin Pilot Challenge here on IMSA Radio and IMSA TV. Great to have your company if you're listening in at the circuit 87.7 FM. We'll be back with you for the Porsche second race and of course the IMSA WeatherTech Sports Car Championship on Sunday. Live across the world on RS2 IMSA Radio, no blocks, no breaks. And here comes Billy Johnson. He thought about it into the kink and then moves back into line. That tells you that he's very confident about that AMG GT4 from Windward Racing underneath him. He's got a great run. That little Cayman though makes a small hole in the air. He's not getting a huge draft. Tries to go to the left-hand side, which is the outside of Canada corner. That's not going to work. But surely now it's a matter of time. The Cayman looks absolutely tiny towards the final corner. Billy Johnson starting to look even more racy and trying to get a position where he gets the not inconsiderable nose of that AMG GT4 up alongside and into the eye line of Trent Hinman. But the Porsche is fast in a straight line, certainly in the early part of the long straight, but then the AMG starts to get into its stride. Just doesn't seem to be a long enough straight, bizarrely. It's just in the last, maybe the last quarter of the straight when the AMG pulls back in again.
Yeah, I mean, you know, the Mercedes is a good bit heavier. It's a whole 130 kilograms lighter than the Mercedes, and that's a huge amount of weight differential between these two cars. You can see the head-on shot as they come down the hill towards turn 5. The Cayman, it's a really slippery little car, but the Mercedes has good power, it has good grip, and there's not much to choose between them in terms of lap time, it would appear.
Making their lap times a little differently, and that's what we love. That's the variety of sports car racing. Mid-engine, very low set engine in that Cayman. Sits right behind the driver. In the street car, there's absolutely nothing behind the seats. There's a firewall, and then behind that there's actually a little bit of luggage space, because you can't see the engine. It is literally so far down, and then you've got some trunk space in the front as well. Very well balanced little car. Porsche enthusiasts will tell you that that is one of the best handling Porsches that Porsche's build, and a really viable alternative to the 911. 911 still sitting at the top of the tree as far as Porsche sports cars are concerned, but in terms of performance, and certainly performance for the amount of money that you put down, a Cayman GTS or a Boxster GTS, particularly with that new 4-litre flat 6 engine that is back in the range in the street cars, very, very impressive package indeed. Right, we haven't talked about TCR for a while. Gabby Chavez leads Parker Chase by about 5 seconds. That's 33 in front of 29, the two Hyundai Velosters. in third position. It is now a 1-2-3 for Hyundai Veloster and Brian Herter, with Mark Wilkins in the black number 21 that he took over from Harry Gottsacker. He's ahead of the fast MD Racing Audi by just on 2 seconds. James Vance behind the wheel there, and then around about 17 seconds further back there's a bit of a gap to the Alpha, which is in 5th position. Final stop, Jeremy, for the Volt Cayman. Now this is very interesting. Get the final stop done first. I like this tactic.
Yeah, that's Michael Johnson for you there, the team strategist here and team principal at Archangel Motorsports. He's been around the sport a long, long time. He knows exactly what it takes. Useful driver in his own right as well, actually. He's certainly one of the renowned as one of the best strategists in the paddock. Also often does strategy in the WeatherTech Sports Car Championship as well, even though he runs his own team here. And this will be, they know they can get to the end from here, fill it up with fuel, fresh set of Michelin tyres, and Trent, go for it. And if there is now a full course caution, this will play into this team's favour. They've made their final stop. Everybody else still has to make one more pit stop in the race. If there is a full course caution, the pits are closed. You cannot make your pit stop until the pits are open. By then, everybody is closed back up again. And therefore, Trent Hinman, if that is indeed the scenario, he will move through to the front of the pack, and he'll be a very difficult guy to catch in the closing stages of this race. But of course, for that strategy to play off, he needs a caution period before the other leaders make their way onto pit lane.
And that might just trigger, Shea Adam, a whole raft of stops, because that wasn't the only stop that was made recently.
No, and credit where credit's due. Bimmerworld was actually the first team into the pit lane with their number 82 BMW. Devin Jones, who took over for James Clay a little bit earlier on, was the first car to come onto the pit lane to do that. The next lap around, his teammate Dylan McIvern in the 80 came in to do his stop too. So this has worked for the car that is now Archangel Motorsports. They won the race 2 years ago on a fuel strategy, so they're looking to try and do that again. Unfortunately, their bluff has been called by the BMW team, who did the exact same thing.
Under 20 laps to go on the prediction, with around about 44 minutes to go, 43.5 minutes to go. So who blinks next? Co Motorsport leads. They've got the most to lose. 7.7 seconds, the gap between Marcelli and Jeff Westphal. The Carbon with Peregrine in second place in that lovely Audi, the 39 car. That's the championship leader as well. Fair to say that Audi doesn't need to win here, but they will want to win here. And at the moment, the leader is in behind the leader of TCR. Just underlining, Jeremy, how good those little TCRs are around the corners. There was no chance at all from 5 all the way through to the exit of the carousel for the leader of the race in that Aston. There was not a chance at all to outperform that Hyundai going in and through the corners. Those TCR cars, mighty good on the twisty stuff.
Yeah, they are, aren't they? And they're doing a super job here in the TCR lead, but Kyle Marcelli is going to make that pass now. He's pulled out over 7.5 seconds now over second place, but Jeff Westphal very soon now in and looming large in his mirrors is that number 3 McLaren of Corey Lewis. He's closed that gap down over the last few laps. 6.3 seconds, 5.7, 4.9, 1.6 the last time they came across the line. So that battle for second place now well and truly on between Jeff Westphal and Corey Lewis. Audi versus McLaren.
Another lap complete. Shea, go ahead, sorry.
No, that was Jeremy.
Sorry, Jeremy, go ahead.
Well, the Archangel car coming in and making that pit stop, if that car was running up in the 5th position there, the best place, the two Bimmerworld BMWs, number 31 and car number 22, they just made pit stops as well for the same reason. And that's, for them, it's a Hail Mary call, because unless they tried something a little bit different, they're not going to beat the cars ahead of them. So they needed to come in and make the pit stop. The key now, the leaders, is how long they wait. Answer, not very long, because Jeff Westphal has just brought the number 39 car onto pit lane in second position.
And Shea Adam is watching the stop. Shouldn't be a driver change here. I'll be interested to see what they do tyre-wise, Shea.
No, it's Jeff Westphal staying in the car. It was Tyler McQuarrie qualified it in second, so Jeff will be holding on to that car until the end of the race. But fuel and tires going on, having a little bit of a hang-up with the left rear tire and now running around to do the right rear as the air jack was actually in the way of the tire changer, so he just pulled that out. But we are still waiting for Kyle Marcelli and Corey Lewis and Billy Johnson, for that matter, to come in and make their final pit stops. They currently run first, second, and third, but Corey Lewis, 7.7 seconds behind Marcelli. Looks like he's going to try and get up to the leader before he comes in for that last stop.
There will be a lot of very, very anxious people in motorsport in action. It's a great group. They are very much think of themselves as a family, and they have steadfastly, Jeremy, stuck with McLaren. Wasn't the easiest of births to the relationship with the McLarens in IMSA Michelin Pilot Challenge, but all the teams who ran McLarens have helped. They've helped develop the car, and all of a sudden, within the last few months, maybe a little bit further back than that, back into last season, the car has started to, the manufacturer has started to find a bit of success here in the States.
Well, yeah, finished second in the championship last year, the MIA team with two different drivers, with Corey Fergus and Jesse Lazar. And it's a shame not to see either of those two in the series this season. But Corey Lewis is a very, very experienced and accomplished competitor as well. And Sheena Monk clearly has come along in leaps and bounds. So they are going to be a force to be reckoned with.
I thought it was very interesting what Sheena said about how the Lamborghini Racing had helped a great battle across the start-finish line, and through goes the Mustang, and that was Sebastian Priaulx going ahead of the Bimmer World car as they are battling just outside the top 10 as the pit stop start to happen. And Shea, you've got the leading Kyle Marcelli Core Motorsport Aston Martin in the pits.
The Core Motorsport guys need a perfect stop, and they know it, as Kyle Marcelli fuel, and they are doing 4 tires for this Aston Martin too. Corey Lewis stayed out and continues around the track with a little bit of traffic, but for Kyle Marcelli, it's just focus. It's keep your head down, go out there and get a win. This has been a difficult track in the past for Marcelli and for Nate Stacey. Nate actually had a big crash in practice a few years ago in their former brand of car, and they wound up coming back for a drive back, but they put a lucky unicorn on the car. Stacey's niece thought it was a good idea. Fuel stop is done. The 4 tires are on the car, and a bit of a slow getaway for Marcelli, but now he needs to put his head down and just get back to the front.
Meantime, whilst that VP Racing Fuels pit lane report from Shea Adam was going on, the current leader for the MIA, the Motorsport in Action McLaren, just put a lap on the Multimatic Mustang of Sebastian Priaulx in 11th position. Now, the leader at the moment is not really the leader when this shakes out, because there's still a pit stop to go for that car. Billy Johnson's taking his final pit stop of this race for Winward Racing out of 3rd position. The Core Motorsports Aston Martin is back out and running again, but significant that Sebastian Priaulx has lost the lead lap. He didn't make it easy, no doubt about that.
No, John, that car's already made its final pit stop. I wonder whether the MIA McLaren team have missed a trick here, because Corey Lewis lost time on that lap getting past his 2 lap cars, which have both already made their final pit stop, and that cost him time. He's now going to bring that car onto pit lane as the race leader, but I think that was probably a mistake not to bring him in on the previous lap, which is when Kyle Marcelli brought the Aston Martin in, clear track ahead of him. Clear track, I think, when he went out, and I believe that he's able to even extend his lead a bit more over the number 39 Audi, which came in 1 lap before Kyle Marcelli in the Aston Martin. So we'll see how this pans out now with the final pit stop of the day, I hope, for the number 3 team.
Yeah, as you say, it was the catching of the traffic and putting that lap on Priaulx that caused the issue, and there was a bit of a battle, and rightly so. It's not a problem. This looks fairly standard, and 4 Michelin tyres stop here for the MIA car.
Yeah, VP Racing Fuels pit report. The difference with McLaren is they only have one gun to do their tire changes. The center locking nut being an advantage for this team over the rest of the teams in the paddock who have to use 5 lug nuts. So the fueling is done. The tires are changed. Away goes Corey Lewis. That was a very good stop. He's going to get out. Let's see if he manages to hold on to the lead, though. The Aston Martin coming up the hill as the McLaren is going toward the pit exit at an aggravating 60 kilometers per hour. And Corey Lewis is out of the pit lane, and the Aston Martin is still behind, but Corey's going to have to get up to speed.
Well, that Jeremy Shaw was spot on. That extra lap could have been even more important than we realised, because going down towards turn 3, there's nothing between them, and the Aston's got the Michelin tyres up to temperature and pressure. So that was an interesting...
Corey Lewis has got to be smart here, John.
Go ahead, Jeremy.
Corey Lewis has got to be smart. He shouldn't worry. If Kyle Marcelli goes past him, I don't think he should worry too much. He's got fresh set of tyres. They're going to come up to temperature pretty quickly. If the Aston goes past, don't fight him too hard. Don't make a mistake. If he can hang on to the lead, all well and good, but don't make a mistake in this situation.
Well, both of those cars look very good indeed through turn 5. They've got some traffic ahead. It is the one of the Hondas that they are about to put another lap on. And this may be danger time for the leader of the race, Corey Lewis, and that is the actual lead of the race after the final pit stops. Big flash of the lights from the McLaren driver, and here comes the Aston as well as they peel off left-handed at the bottom of Hurry Downs before they go into the carousel. I don't think he can get through there, Corey. He thought about it. A little bit of dirt thrown up by the Honda ahead of them, and it looks to me as though Kyle Marcelli's been very cute indeed and trying to get a better run coming out of the carousel. He dropped away just a little bit and through as he enters the kink, the McLaren, and off goes the Honda, trying to give him a bit of room. And that is the danger, of course, when you're being passed. There was no touch there, and the Honda driver doing his best to stay out of the way, but got onto the marbles, just turned in maybe a car's length too late into the kink, and the little front wheel drive Honda understeering, pushing off, but has managed to stay out of the wall. And now the battle for the lead then comes to the final corner. Corey Lewis may have done enough, Jeremy Shaw, on that lap to hold on to the lead. Oh, he makes a mistake through the final corner, drops the left-hand rear Michelin onto the dirt, and here comes the Aston. Marcelli smells a little bit of blood. There's nothing between them as they go down to turn 1. I tell you what though, Jeremy, I'm with you. If they'd pitted that McLaren a little bit earlier, they'd have had a 2 or 3 second lead there. Well, maybe not that much, but certainly would have had a second or 2 more.
Well, I don't know. I mean, it's just that it must have been a magnificent in lap. It was certainly a tremendous out lap by Corey Lewis, because before the round of pit stops, he was about 4 seconds behind and closing quickly. So he's done a really, really good job here as Corey Lewis, and I think he's just now got to can just be smart, which he certainly was in that outlap. He was a really good defensive move down to turn 5, leave no opportunity for Kyle Marcelli to try think about stuff in the Aston Martin down the inside line. And we've seen, have we not already in this race, how fleet that McLaren is on the straight. We can see it again there. He pulled out 3 or 4 car lengths at least on the straight. He's able to maintain his advantage into turn 5.
I like the McLaren on the brakes as well at this stage of the race, I've got to say. It looks fairly good. Ian McCarthy, hello, has tweeted at IMSA Radio. He said the fact that the Cayman and the AMG GT are in the same class, locked in battle, is a wonder of modern sports car racing. It's been non-stop action in both classes today. Absolutely brilliant for the IMSA Michelin Pilot Challenge. Glad you've enjoyed it, Ian, and hope you'll stay with us for the rest of the 32 minutes or thereabouts, and indeed the rest of the season on IMSA Radio and IMSA TV. That McLaren has just about broken the toe and may just be breaking the hearts of Core Motorsports, as it's now got something towards a second of a gap going down the back straight towards Canada Corner. The chance here for the Aston, Jeremy, is going to be if there's any traffic about, and Kyle Marcelli needs to be there or thereabouts. We've still got a half an hour to go here, and there will be a change in performance in these cars as they burn off their fuel, but they will be wearing their tyres. There's not that much of a difference between when the cars stopped, but obviously the McLaren has slightly better by what, a lap? I think it was only a lap, wasn't it, between Marcelli and Lewis? Yeah.
It was one lap. The key now, I think, is going to be tyre conservation. I think the McLaren, certainly in the first stint with Sheena Lewis, who of course doesn't have anything like as much experience as Corey Lewis, she clearly, I think, was falling off the pace towards the latter part of her stint. The second stint, though, that Corey Lewis, I don't think he's going to have a problem, and I think he's certainly got the legs on the Aston Martin here. He's just got to play it smart, not make any mistakes, and I think the win is in the bag pretty much for the MIA team, and it's certainly be well deserved. But for Kyle Marcelli, it's been a flawless run for that car, but these two, the McLaren and the Aston Martin, they have been very much the class of the field today.
Jeremy, I can feel Eric Carib already sitting on the pit box for the Mia McLaren, getting ready to find a baseball bat and find you, because win is in the bag is not words that they want to hear. They were leading until the final lap of the race last year at Road America, and if you need to see what happened, go on the Rebel Rider feed to watch that video. It's worth your time. I did check in with Sheena, by the way, about the tire drop-off at the end of her stint. She said, yeah, it was pretty bad and it was pretty noticeable, but given when they pitted Corey and the length of the stint that he has to do to keep it to the end of the race, they feel that he should have a better time managing those Michelins.
Yeah, it's a fair point, and they've split that last stint to the end of the race. It will be a shorter stint. Corey did 18 laps, and he's only going to have probably 15 or 16 to do to the checkered flag. Yeah, it's not going to be massively different, is it? A couple of laps, maybe.
No, they've split the race into kind of three segments.
I like it.
Of pretty equal length. Absolutely, I do too.
I think that's smart.
This battle heating up. This is for a fifth position now with Bill Auberly coming under increasing pressure from Billy Johnson. After the latest round of pit stops, the number 4 car came out behind the number 95 to the tune of about 4 seconds, but Billy Johnson has closed that back in no time at all, and I think Bill Auberly now is going to be, he's not going to have any defense at all. There goes the Mercedes down the inside, the braking for Canada corner.
Now the question now is how far can Billy Johnson get up the road and try and put some pressure on Trent Hinman, who is only, a couple of seconds or so up the road. That will be knocking on the door of a top 3, although Westphal is another 17 seconds further around Road America in the number 39 championship leading car bomb with Peregrine Audi R8. It'll be a decent points haul for them if they stay where they are. Well, people on the edge of their seats at Mia, at Motorsport in Action, and also at McLaren Philadelphia as well. Big supporters of IMSA Racing, their social media. Michelin and McLaren customer racing at its finest, say McLaren Philadelphia. And Jeremy Shaw has spotted a new fastest lap of the race. Jeremy, what you got?
A new lap record for our race leader, Corey Lewis. 2 minutes 16.673. Again, to reiterate, the lap record set just last year was a 2:18.4 by Robin Liddell in the race-winning Chevrolet Camaro. The qualifying lap record that was set last year was a 2 minutes 16.5. For Tyler McQuarrie in the Audi. We did not beat that lap record in qualifying, but even in race configuration, Corey Lewis is at least virtually going to match that qualifying time from last year. That's pretty remarkable.
Yeah, that is impressive. We did have a wet qualifying, wet race last year, which is why that mark had stood, but that is brilliant and beautiful conditions. 23 degrees Celsius in the air and 29 on the track. Or for those of you trackside here who are listening in, I'll do the quick conversion. That's 73 Fahrenheit in the air, 84 on the track. 87.7 around the circuit. RS2 IMSA Radio around the world in sound and vision as well, where available. Through comes the leading McLaren, 1.1 seconds. Traffic to be factored in here as well. And that is who going a lap down there in the Audi. That must be Britt Casey Jr. in the McCann Racing car, that number 8. Yes, it is, going a lap down to the first and second place cars, who are picking their way through the TCR runners as well, with the KMW Motorsports Alpha also having to give best to both first and second place cars. And it looked like Marcelli just got the better of that. Gone out to almost 2 seconds as he rounds turn 5. In fact, already halfway up the hill, more than that to turn 6. So Corey Lewis leading then with a new lap record, new best for the race and for this circuit, 2:16.673. That is haul in the mill. But there's 25 minutes left, and we have seen, Jeremy Shaw, have we not, that particularly in the Michelin Pilot Challenge down through the years, that it is not over until the checkered flag is out. And there's literally anything could happen at the moment, and that's why there will be so many fingernails being sacrificed to the great gods of racing at the moment.
That's right. Just think back to last year, and the Compass Racing team thought they had the race in the bag with Kuno Whitmer leading on the run up to the line, and then in his elation he hit the radio button to shout to the team. Unfortunately, he didn't hit the radio button. In actual fact, he hit the pit lane speed limiter, so the car suddenly slowed, and Robin Liddell, an unbelieving Robin Liddell, went through to win the race. So yes, anything can happen, and Carl Marcelli is hanging in there. I mean, he's losing a little bit of ground to the McLaren, but he's doing a super job in an Aston Martin in second place. And with still 24 minutes remaining, there is plenty of time for anything else to unfold in this race as well. Just looking at Jeff Westphal, he's running now in a pretty conservative third position. He's all on his own now, well clear of Trent Hindman, and Trent Hindman has been closed on very rapidly by Billy Johnson, who's pulled a two-point deficit of over 2 seconds to next to nothing in just a couple of laps.
Yeah.
So that's far from over. In TCR, Gabby Chavez leads the class still for the Brown Herder Autosport team, kind of 33 ahead of his teammate Parker Chase. But Parker Chase is hanging with him. In actual fact, he's only about 4 seconds or so behind him.
I think Robin Liddell, Adam, was 4th. Was he 6th when he started the last lap last year?
He was down in 6th position. He passed one car in the first, basically the first sector of the lap. He got up to 4th place out of the carousel. He was in 2nd place coming out of Canada Corner, and then he was in 1st place crossing the finish line. It was that close for Robin. Yeah, just underlining what Jeremy and I were saying. And here is that battle. We said anything can happen just outside the podium spots at turn 5 at the moment. The bright yellow Volt Cayman. Trent Hindman struggling just a little bit. Looks like he hasn't quite got the car under him that he had earlier on through 6 and towards 7, and right behind him now is Billy Johnson. So this is back on again. We saw it earlier in this Michelin Pilot Challenge race. Down the inside at the bottom of Hurry Downs. No, I don't think so. Through the left-hander before sweeping, almost turning right forever at that point through the carousel and just balancing the car. Looks like the Cayman's struggling for a bit of rear grip there, Jeremy, and Billy Johnson looks very menacing indeed. Well, the car does. Billy Johnson, we can barely see, he's hunkered down. If he could make himself smaller behind the wheel to find half a mile an hour, he would do that as well. Now coming down towards Canada Corner. And I know that the AMG is a lot bigger than the Cayman, but you literally cannot see it. It is so close in behind. This is super driving and concentration. Trent Hindman takes a huge amount of pace through the centre of Canada Corner, and there's a touch, and I think it's broken the steering on the Volt car side by side as they came out of Canada Corner towards the next left-hander where the bridge used to be. It was the lightest of touches, but the cars are loaded up there. There was a certain inevitability about that. Oh my goodness me, is there a problem? It's taken the door mirror
push the door mirror in? No, it looks like that was just the wheel that was ripped out of Trent Hinman's hand then that threw that. And through goes Billy Johnson. That will be looked at. Race control have looked at it, reviewed, no action. Race control are on fire today, not messing about with anything. They've made a quick decision with 21 minutes still to go. So now Billy Johnson released from that particular issue, which was the Cayman ahead of him. He's got 15, call it 16 seconds to make up to get on the podium. And frankly, the pace that car's got at the moment, I wouldn't put it past him. Jeremy Shaw, that incident, very close contact, a very close quarters action indeed from those two.
It was indeed. I certainly don't think Billy Johnson, I don't think either of those two did kind of anything wrong. Billy Johnson certainly seemed to hold his line there, going up towards the next corner, which is a left-hander. He didn't have to move across to the right there. Trent Hinman clearly decided that Billy Johnson should be moving further to the right, so he tried to do the same and kind of crowd him out a little bit. And unfortunately, it was Trent Hinman that came off worse there. I don't think there's any. I think that I completely agree with race control, racing incident.
Yeah, they'd given each other enough room through the exit of Canada corner. Just coming together. Didn't seem to be any intent from either of those drivers. And we've said this before as well. Oh, Billy Johnson slides off through the kink. Lost rear end grip. Massive slide there. He did not even lift off the throttle at that point. It's barely even slowed him down. He'll have to watch with dirt on the tyres down towards Canada corner. He's looking for a podium. Sometimes the no call is the right call from race control, and that was one of those times there. But Billy Johnson, what a save, Jeremy. What a save. That would have been a monumental accident. In fact, we've seen cars upside down at that part of the circuit before doing exactly the same thing. Remarkable reflexes from Johnson.
Yeah, I mean, it's just total commitment going into the corner there. The car just slides a bit on the exit, and that's you don't completely take your hands off the steering wheel there, but you certainly don't want to do anything too dramatic with the steering wheel when the car is out of shape like that. You just got to kind of hope it comes back into line. Billy Johnson, as we talked about earlier on, the most successful driver in this series, or equal most successful with Matt Plum. But Matt Plum had, they both got 23 wins, but Billy Johnson has the most podium finishes. He's looking for number 50, but the bad news is he's about 16 seconds behind the third place car at the moment. But for this team, it'd be another strong run for the number 4 car. They're already running equal second in the championship with 58 points coming into this weekend. So another strong finish is exactly what they need.
He barely dropped any time on that lap at all. And I've got to tell you, Jeremy, I don't think he was out of control there. I think you used the right word. He was totally committed. The car was sliding, and he was, 3 feet maybe, if that, too far off with the left-hand rear, left-hand Michelins, and he just controlled it. He knew it was coming back. He knew there'd be grip on the grass. How he knew that, I don't know. But he just kept it going. It was an extraordinary thing to see. It wasn't. I thought he'd lost grip on the rear much earlier, but it was a flat 4-wheel drift right through the kink. Extraordinary thing to see.
That's confidence for you. I mean, Billy Johnson, a hugely experienced driver, really great driver. I mean, underrated in my opinion, in many people's eyes. Ford Performance took him under their wing for quite a long time, gave him all sorts of opportunities in all sorts of different cars, including, of course, in the World Endurance Championship in the Ford GTs. Let's have another look at it again.
Oh,
yeah, I
tiny
mean,
little kiss.
Billy Johnson certainly he made sure that Trent Hinman was the one who's lined into that next corner, who's going to be compromised by just squeezing him into the middle of the racetrack, because you want to be over to the right-hand side of the course there. So, it was forceful driving. I don't think I would apportion any blame at it.
No, I did notice that on the lap after the big slide, Jeremy, that there was a little more gap between the left-hand Michelins and the edge of the track on the exit of the kink the next time around.
Funny that.
Yeah, perhaps, right, okay, I can't quite take that flat out in whatever I was, and I just need a slight lift at this stage. 16 and a half minutes to go, and still battles with Sebastian Priaulx and Spencer Pumpelly, who seemingly have been together since they jumped in the cars some laps ago. 9th and 10th position for those guys. And into the pit lane is the LA Honda World Civic. This is the number 73 car.
John,
I
think
think
it's John Morley.
Excuse me, you're right. That is it. They're both in. Has there been a coming together here? John Morley.
Looks like it be suspension damage for that number 61 Audi. This is the car that won the first race of the season, and they were running fairly close together, the 73 and the 61, but John Morley and Gavin Ernstone having a difficult weekend after qualifying further down the grid than they would have liked back in the 9th position. Matt Palumbo also into the pit lane, as you rightly said, and the LA Honda World just can't seem to shake their demons with all 3 of their cars right now not out on the track.
Yeah, it's not been a good run for those guys. Thank you, Shea, with that VP Racing Fuels pit report. Well, what else have we got? What else have we got? Because you know that this is not over. Starting to cloud over again now, but nothing on the weather radar to get too worried about. At the front of the field, the Mia Motorsport in Actions, McLaren, Corey Lewis having taken over from Sheena Monk, who did a great job in qualifying. Qualified on the second row, promoted herself to second place by the turn into the first corner with an absolutely demon piece of driving. And Corey Lewis has taken over after the first pit stop. He's now got nearly 4 seconds of a gap between himself and Kyle Morselli for Core Motorsports in second place, that led with Nate Stacey behind the wheel for so much of the early part of the race. Then there's 21 seconds back to Jeff Westphal in the Audi, the championship leading 39 car barn with Peregrine, as through goes pits for Billy Johnson. Billy Johnson is in the pit lane from 4th position for Winward Racing. Now this is interesting. Surely this can't be for fuel, Jeremy. He should have been able to go from the last stop. Let me just
Absolutely.
check that. He hasn't been out that long, has he?
No, it's not for fuel.
No, he's only been out for 10 laps.
Yep.
So
we just saw there the number 35 car. That's Dylan Murray, who's taken over from Jim Cox, and he has just snuck past Bill Oblin. So as Bill told Shea earlier on, he wasn't too optimistic about this race.
No.
So it's
guys, sorry, it was a drive-through. So the race control channel gave us a little bit of a wrong steer. I've got consecutive messages that says at 24 minutes and 9 seconds past the hour, car 7 spun and continued. At 26 seconds past 24 minutes past the hour, reviewed, no action. At 35 seconds past 24 minutes past the hour, under review. And then at 26 minutes 38, incident responsibility to car 4, drive through.
okay.
So
The reason for that, John, is because Billy Johnson didn't move to what he should have done going into turn 13. We talked about it ourselves. We thought it was kind of okay, and we said it was certainly a bit marginal. I mean, Billy Johnson left, not only did he not leave any room, he didn't force Trent Hinman off the racetrack, but he did prevent Trent Hinman from taking the sort of normal line, which would be, since they were alongside each other, would be 1 car width from the outside of the corner. So, yeah, it was a fairly harsh call there, I think, on Billy Johnson. But that is the reason for that. He did not give Trent Hinman as much room as Trent Hinman deserved at that point in the racetrack. I think that is why the decision was made.
I'd quite like to see that again, because it looked to me as if Johnson was slightly ahead. And he'd got a better run out of Canada corner, and therefore at that point, you know, the line is his, and it's Trent that's then got to give way, surely.
That's why I would have said no call earlier on, but I'm sure that's what they've decided, because at that point the normal line for Billy Johnson would be to move out to the right-hand side of the racetrack, give himself a better run through turn 13, but of course by narrowing the line Trent Hinman, then it's going to give Billy more of an advantage. And as you say, he's the one who has the track position at that stage. One would have thought it would be in his favour, but Race Control decided that was not the case.
I'm just checking both of my race control channels, and they are both the same. So apologies for giving you that original no call, no action, but that was as reported on the official timing and scoring. And then that was either reviewed again, or that message doesn't say it was withdrawn. It was just reviewed, and then the second call was made. So apologies for that, only working on information received. 11 minutes to go. That takes Billy Johnson well out of it. He's dropped right down to 4th position. What a day it's been for Windward Racing's number 4, down to 14th, back up into the top 6. Battling potentially maybe outside chance of a podium, now back down to 8th, and just a couple of seconds ahead of Sebastian Priaulx and Spencer Pumpelly, who are still battling for 9th and 10th position. The other Windward car, which Bryce Ward had well up inside the top 10, sitting in 13th at the moment with Alex Edel ahead of Chase Briscoe. Alex actually just closing in on the BMW of Bimmer World. Both the BMWs of Bimmer World in line astern on the timing and scoring, but about 20 seconds between them. 82 from 80. Front of the field, 5 seconds the gap, Jeremy. Corey Lewis has settled into a rather nice rhythm at about mid 217s. Everybody else 218s and beyond. That's very, very impressive, and the lead's just starting to stretch out again.
Yeah, absolutely fantastic consistency from Corey Lewis. Each of his last 8-10 laps we've been within a tenth or two of a second. That's pretty remarkable at this stage in a race on a 4-mile racetrack, and that is why he has gradually extended that lead now to over 5 seconds from Kyle Marcelli, who's doing a similarly good job, by the way, in terms of the consistency and driving in that second position. But clearly the McLaren is the car they have today, and Corey Lewis is doing exactly what you would expect him to do with it, and that's put in a masterful drive at the front of the field after a tremendous opening stint from Sheena Monk. Jeff Westphal, he's just settling into 3rd place now. He's just a kind of a Saturday cruise for him, because there's no way he can catch the 2 ahead of him. He's under no pressure. That kind of is now outside the top 4 position. That's been a really
just losing Jeremy there for a moment. We'll get back to him in just a sec. Bill Oberlin, he was mentioning there, the 95 Turner BMW, just 3 seconds behind 4th position at the moment, and 5.8 seconds ahead of Trent Hinman. That's Jeremy is back with us now, the vagaries of our internet connection. 8.5 minutes to go, Jeremy. TCR once again, Brian Herter Autosport, the Hyundai Velosters, 5 seconds between 1st and 2nd, a little bit further back, around about 30 seconds, a wee bit more actually, back to Mark Wilkins. But once again, they are going to sweep the podium by the look of it, and once again it's the Alfa Romeo that is the best of the rest.
Yeah, it's been a super run for the Alfa. It looks like at the moment headed for 4th position, but it's been a really good run for Ryan Block, who started that car, particularly for Tim Lewis Jr., who took over at the wheel of that number 5 car at the pit stops, and he is running along quite beautifully in the 4th position. But once again, the Hyundai's very much the class of the field here in terms of pace, despite the fact they were pegged back a little bit since the last round at Sebring.
What a programme it has been for Brian Herter Autosport, who took the platform of the i30N and turned it into the Veloster. The oddity of having 2 doors on one side, 1 door on the other, plus the hatchback makes it legal. You've got to have 4 or 5 doors stroke hatch for TCR regulations, and it has worked very, very well indeed. Customer cars out there as well now, and racing not just here in IMSA but around the world. And Hyundai making waves in World Rally as well, of course, and also looking to develop another touring car on the Elantra, which looks very similar to me to the i30N hatchback. So keep an eye out for that in the coming months. But it has been a very, very successful programme. At the front of the field, Corey Lewis pacing himself. Still in the 17s, 17.4, 17.5, 17.8 the last few laps as he comes round. Actually, to put another lap onto Gabby Chavez, who is...
Put a lap on Gabby Chavez.
Put a lap. Yes, you're right, Jeremy. Yes, you're right. So that has been a very, very speedy run, hasn't it? They went to the full hour before they did their one and only pit stop. And even on a very fast, wide open circuit like here at Road America, Jeremy, with no intervention from the safety car, the lead TCR car now, and only now, with 5.5 minutes to go, falls off the overall lead lap. Very impressed with the pace.
It's very impressive. It's been a really good run by these two. I think they were very, very sensible in qualifying. Ryan Norman, did a super job in qualifying. Just did what he had to do. Just turn a lap. It doesn't really matter how fast it is. They've got a good car for the race, and it's exactly the way it's panned out for this Brown Order Sport with Kerr-Bagger Journey and team.
Yeah, they've taken that programme and really moved the ball down the field, haven't they? What can we say about motorsport in action, Mia, and what they've achieved in the last couple of seasons in IMSA competition? Great supporters of IMSA. The green and white McLaren then, not a usual McLaren colour scheme, being tracked now by that red and white Hyundai N, the performance brand for Hyundai around the world, and various versions, more sporty versions of their very, very well engineered cars with the N moniker. That means it is the sportier versions, including some that was the leader kicking up dust there, going through the kink. More sporty versions, including, I'm led to believe, some of the SUVs will be getting the N treatment as well. Here comes the second place Core Motorsports Aston Martin, and again we'll have to find the right spot to pass that little red Veloster. Through the final corner, take your time, Kyle. Cut the lead down to just under 5 seconds. Shea Adam with news from the pit lane. This is normally the time when you can walk down the pit lane that I start asking who is looking worried, who is looking carefree, and who won't look you in the eye in terms of fuel. What can you tell us in this VP Racing Fuel Pit update?
Don't have to be on the pit to be able to tell you that the Mia crew is not looking at anything. They're not thinking about anything, and if we mention anything about them, they'll find us. But in terms of the TCR category, we have Hyundais 1, 2, and 3. The ones that are in 1 and 2 are close on fuel. They think they're good to go to the end, but Gabby Chavez and Parker Chase in the 33 and 29 respectively, they're slightly nervous on those two pit walls. When it comes to the 21 of Mark Wilkins, he is good to go to the end of the race. They've told him that he can do whatever he wants, but the two sister cars, well, they're the ones that cause for concern.
Oh, okay. That's interesting. And what was the difference in when they pitted? I didn't think...
And
just one lap?
The number 33 car came in 1 lap before the number 29, and they were among the early cars.
Oh yeah, you're right.
It was just over an hour to go in the race. It was 64 minutes to go when the number 33 car came in. A couple of minutes later, 1 lap later, is when the number 29 car came in to make its.
And Mark Wilkins was 1 lap behind that as well. So they've all got a lap between them. Yeah, very good. The 33 did 24 laps on its first stint. It's already on its 26th at the moment, so I can understand why there's a little bit of concern.
And it will be white flag this time by
for the Motorsports in Action McLaren as they come through. So having just dropped off the lead lap might not have been the worst thing for the leaders in TCR. At least they'll have 4 miles fewer to do Up the hill then for the penultimate time. And the number 65 AMG ahead of the leading McLaren. And that was Tim Probert for Murillo Racing. Just about to get lapped by Corey Lewis. Doesn't really need to. Corey at the moment, he might just slide down into turn number 3. Oh! And that is the number 4 AMG. What a day they've had. Billy Johnson with the front end missing from that car. He's been pushing so hard. We know how hard he was shaping up to try and get somewhere close to the podium. The front end completely ripped off the left rear with a big dent in it as well. And he followed off the, oh my goodness, that's a huge impact coming out of the carousel. Followed off the number 56 car of Eric Voss, who came off the circuit, coming out of the carousel, threw up a whole load of dust. Now, I wonder if he'd put something down. No, it's not. It's down to turn 5, through turn 4 to turn 5. My apologies. Well, that was a very odd. I wonder if there's something on the circuit there, Jeremy, that caused that. So that was coming.
I guess it was coming out of turn 3 then, wasn't it?
It was coming out.
Yeah, it's coming out of turn 3. And that means we're going to finish under caution.
That is an extraordinary accident. My apologies. I saw the pace and the tightish left. It's coming out of 7. It was coming out of 7, Jeremy. We'll get it right eventually. Yeah. Oh, really? It's coming out of 7. And no, it's all right. It was such a violent accident that I thought it could only be coming out of the carousel with that turn. Some applause from the crowd nearby at Hurry Downs to see Billy Johnson step out of that. It was Eric Voss who went off the circuit coming out of turn number 7, kicked up a whole load of dust, and then Billy Johnson went off and even further, and as he was coming back on, it looked like he caught the curb as he was coming back onto the circuit, and that pitched the car into a violent move to the right and hit the unprotected concrete there very hard indeed, and that's ripped the front end from asunder from that car. So we will finish under yellow flag, and Corey Lewis, we can say this now because they cannot be passed. Corey Lewis will finish what Sheena Monk started in qualifying, then continued with a brilliant drive from Sheena in the opening stint, particularly in the rough and tumble of the opening stint of the race. And motorsports in action, and McLaren with the 570S GT4 will win, and very slowly crosses the line now and do win the Michelin Pilot Challenge at the Road America 120. MIA are winners. What a result, what a run. Perfectly judged with their pit stop. It looked like they might have gone a lap longer. They may have made that slightly more difficult for Corey than it needed to be, but they will take the victory and the maximum points here. It will be a 1-2-3 for Brian Herder Autosport and their Hyundai Veloster NTCRs, 33 from 29 from 21, and that is another dominant performance from Brian Herder Autosport in a race that went full green, full 120 minutes, 2 hours of action from start to finish. It was yellow at the end, but let's be honest, we were on the last lap when that came out. And that is where we see all of the relative performance of the car. Jeremy Shaw, another absolute belter.
Yeah, it was. What a shame it finished under yellow, and it's good to know that Billy's okay, because that was a really scary accident there, but a great performance by the Motorsports in Action team. And Corey Lewis and Sheena Monk, well-deserved victory for them. They had a supercar and they made absolutely most of it. In TCR, once again, the Brian Herder Autosport Hyundais were a class of field, and we'll have to wait and see whether they were good to go there. If they could have made it around, they have made it around the last lap, but they timed that absolutely perfectly. They came in just before half distance, which I thought was going to be fairly marginal, but with the extra the pace lap at the start of the race, they timed that absolutely perfectly. They've done a great job once again to come away with a 1-2-3 finish actually in the TCR class, and the Alpha in 4th.
Jeremy very quickly will be working out the points situation as the clean-up goes on the middle of Hurry Downs out of turn 7. It really has. That was a huge incident. I do think that is the joint best. Corey Lewis, what a start. Even as he's celebrating, he's letting the guys behind him know that there was debris on the track and that he was pulling off the circuit to go around it. Shea, I think that's the joint best result for the Alpha. I think they've had a 4th position before, haven't they?
Best finish came at WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca last year of just 1 spot off the podium, so they're still looking for that first trophy. But you want to talk about finishes for the year, John? This is Corey Lewis's, 4th race of the year? 2nd race win, the other one being the 24 Hours of Daytona.
Yeah, he knows when to pull out the stops, and with Sheena Monk, they've clearly built a very decent partnership very quickly indeed, making sure he gets lots of pickup on the Michelin tyres and heads to post-race inspection, post-race tech. So results are provisional at the moment, but let me give you what we have. Motorsport in action. Corey Lewis and Sheena Monk lead and win. The number 3 Mia car, wins under yellow on the last lap from Core Motorsports, who led the first part of the race with Nate Stacey. Kyle Marcelli brings home the Aston Martin Vantage in second, and making it 3 different manufacturers on the podium. Jeff Westphal with Carbon by Peregrine, and the championship leader coming in this weekend, the Audi in 3rd. Mercedes for Riley Motorsports in 4th. BMW for Turner Motorsports in 5th. Porsche making it 6 manufacturers in the top 6 for Archangel Motorsports. Jeremy Shaw has the points.
Yeah, and it's tightened up in the overall GS division. Tyler McQuarrie and Jeff Westphal came in here with a 5-point advantage over Nate Stacey and Kyle Marcelli. Well, they finished in 3rd and 2nd respectively, so that gap now is down to just 3 points between Tyler McQuarrie and Jeff Westphal, who will lead on 93. Nate Stacey and Kyle Marcelli 2nd on 90. 3rd position now be Jim Cox and Dylan Murray. They will move up into the 3rd position on 85 points. In the Manufacturers' Championship, Audi had a 4-point advantage over Mercedes, who were 1 point ahead of Aston Martin. So Audi will maintain the advantage on 97. Aston Martin will now have 94, and Mercedes 91. 3rd position in the Manufacturers' Championship in GS.
As far as TCR is concerned, it'll be Hyundai that are leading that, I reckon, Jeremy. I don't think we need to do the addition for that, do we?
Well, yeah, actually in the Manufacturers' Championship, they were tied with Audi coming in this weekend. But yes, this win will move them ahead for good for after this round. In the overall Drivers' Championship, Harry Gottsacker and Mark Wilkins with a 3rd place finish today. They were tied with Mason Philippi and Michael Lewis, but the problem for the number 98 car early on, that'll give Harry Gottsacker and Mark Wilkins a pretty stout advantage now on 90 points. I think up into 2nd place will be today's race winners, Ryan Norman and Gabby Chavez. They came into the day 7th in points and will now be just 5 behind in 2nd place heading on to our next round.
Do you know, I'm just thinking, I wonder if something broke on the front of that Billy Johnson car as a result of the little side-by-side incident with Trent Hinman earlier on, and that was exacerbated when he came back on from the dirt at turn 7, and just something gave way. Well, Gabby Chavez about to get out of the Veloster N, the Hyundai, bright red Hyundai number 33, taking the victory. What a day again for Brian Herter Autosport. That program, they've made it their own. They won a championship, a manufacturer's championship with the I-30N before they came to IMSA, and then the Veloster built onto the same platform with mostly the same pickup points and things like that. 1 or 2 bits and pieces of engineering that had to be done. Brian, remember talking to Brian about it at Sebring when the car was announced, and he kind of played down how much work was involved in it, but it's clearly not as simple as just bolting a new set of panels on. That's not how it works with monocoque cars at all. But they have made that their own. and they've sold cars to customers as well. Into victory lane for Mia. Motorsport in action for Sheena Monk and Corey Lewis. All of the hard work has paid off. A brilliant qualifying from Sheena Monk, who's there straight away to congratulate her teammates. She put her stint in at the start and did what needed to be done, Jeremy Shaw. In qualifying, let's not forget, she could only be at the sharp end of the field because of the performance that she put in the qualifying, and then backed that up with an immaculate first stint, particularly in the opening laps.
Yeah, absolutely perfect drive by these two. For Sheena Monk, particularly with so little experience in racing in general, that was a very, very impressive job that she did, and exactly what was required of her. Bring the car home bring the car back to the pit lane in good condition, in as good a position as you possibly can, and that's exactly what she did. And Corey Lewis, with all his experience, was able to go on from there. Of course, this is the first win in the Michelin Pilot for Sheena Monk in just her third start, and it's only the second win in 37th starts for Corey Lewis, but a great effort and a tremendous team performance.
Final thoughts from our VP Racing's pit and paddock correspondent, Shea Adam. That's a couple of great stories, and particularly at the sharp end of the field. I think, you know what, Motorsport in Action are one of the popular teams among the other competitors. They have a lot of respect. I think that will be a popular victory, Shea.
Very much so, and especially considering that they didn't have the start to the year that they were hoping for, running with a different team at Daytona, and then Motorsport in Action coming back to the series at Sebring. This is only their second race back since last year, so this is a fantastic way for everybody to celebrate. And nobody is going to begrudge Sheena Monk and Corey Lewis that race win, or Motorsport in Action, particularly given what happened last year. I think the only other popular victory would possibly be Compass, and they've moved up to WeatherTech. They'll be racing tomorrow to try and get a little bit of redemption there.
Yes, that's only the first of two race days for us. Super Saturday has come to a fantastic end. Plenty of drama, action and excitement all the way through the Michelin Pilot Challenge. And tomorrow, join us live from Road America, either trackside or further afield, when we have the second Porsche Challenge race and, of course, the WeatherTech Sports Car Championship. Our thanks to our colleagues at Charlotte. Thank you to Keith, to Jake, to Alex, and of course to our London-based team for our radio broadcast. That was Kerry Cobb today. Thanks, Kez, for everything. Shea and Jeremy joined me, John Hindhaugh, in the Haggerty Global Broadcast Centre. Stay listening on 87.7. The podium ceremonies are next for those of you trackside at Road America. Drive safely on the way home and come back to America's National Park of Speed on Sunday for two more races. From all of us here at IMSA Radio, thank you for joining us, and bye for now.